I'll go ahead and get started. Hi everyone, welcome to today's Markets ROI of Organic Transition for Vegetable Farmers webinar. Thank you for joining us. We are so excited to have you for the next hour. My name is Vivian and I am today's host for today's session, and I will be passing off the mic soon to Rochelle, who will be moderating this conversation today. I work on the consulting team here at Rodale and am part of the markets team supporting organic farmers, those transitioning and those who are curious about organic production, process handling, and organic buyers through transition to organic practices, through identifying markets and connecting with buyers. The markets team at Rodale Institute has partnered with the Organic Trade Association to grow the organic marketplace via TOP. And TOP is the Transition to Organic Partnership Program, and it is a network assembled by the USDA's National Organic Program to help conventional farmers transition to organic. TOP offers a range of benefits, including mentorship programs, development grants, and technical assistance. Today's session is supported through the United States Department of Agriculture TOP, which is administered by the USDA's Agricultural Marketing Service National Organic Program. And you can learn more about it at the link. There we go. You can learn more about it at the link here, organictransition.org. And today's session is the first of our virtual event series focused on organic markets for vegetable operations. This webinar is focused on the farmer and economic expert perspectives and the return on investment of organic transition through the lens of markets. And if you're interested, next week we will be hosting a webinar featuring buyer perspectives. And then the last event will be an advisor call going over learnings from both of the webinars, and we'll feature the folks from this webinar here today and next week's to answer any questions that you may have. Please feel free to ask questions in the Q&A box. And so rather than the chat, please use the Q&A box. Makes it a little bit easier for us to read through. But in the chat box, if you'd like to say hi and say where you're calling in from, that would be great. We'd love to hear from you. Before I pass to Rochelle also and to introduce the other panelists, please know that this webinar is being recorded and will be shared out after in about a week or two. And so, all right, without further ado, I will pass the mic off to Rochelle. She is the Farm and Agribusiness Regional Extension Agent at Northwest Alabama through Auburn University. She holds a BS in Agricultural Business and Economics from Auburn University and an MS in Applied Economics Management from Cornell. She's successfully launched many programs, including enterprise budgets, ag marketing, managing price risk, and how to better sell at farmers markets, offering curated tips through data analysis. So thanks, Rochelle, for joining us and leading today's conversation.
Great, thanks, Vivian. So to introduce our panelists, we have, so that's me. We can go on with, I think Reggie is next on the slide. So here's Reggie Ramos, farmer at Grow with the Flow. Reggie, you're out in Georgia. Reggie, would you tell us a little bit about your operation, just to introduce?
Yes. Hi, I'm Reggie Ramos. My twin brother and I run Grow with the Flow in Tucker, Georgia, where we started. And currently we're in Conyers, Georgia, which is about 30 minutes away from Atlanta. I guess I'll start with like my background. I apprenticed on 2 CSA farms in 2013 and 2014. And then we started our business in 2014 when my brother bought a house in Tucker, and we started in his backyard. And so we were going to farmers markets and we needed more like land to produce more. So we expanded to neighborhood yards, following the model of Curtis Stone, the urban farmer. And then we had as many as 10 yards within a 2-mile radius. Like the size of each plot was about 50 by 50. And then we were going to as many as 5 farmers markets per week in the peak season. And then throughout the years, we were in the network of like the local farming community, and like we were noticed by Global Growers, who is a nonprofit organization that mainly supports refugee farmers and local biopic farmers with land access. And their farm in 2019 flooded. And so they found land in 2022 where we were trying to streamline our process. Um, Instead of having 10 yards, we just wanted one large enough plot that we could produce out of. And so we became the anchor farmers, leasing 1 acre of their 22-acre plot. And we're now in Conyers, Georgia. And they decided they wanted all the farmers to become certified organic on this property, which they had like help purchasing the land through the conservation fund. And in 2022, we moved most of our operation, or pretty much all of it, into this 22-acre co-farm, which we also farm with other farmers on this property. And they also have to become certified organic as well. So yeah, we're the anchor farmers here in Conyers, Georgia, and we're currently still going to farmers markets at the time right now, and as many as like 2 right now in the shoulder season, and then we go to as like only 4 in the peak season. So yeah, that's our story.
Thank you, Reggie. Okay, so next we will introduce Emma Jagoz. Would you introduce a little bit more about your operation, please?
Hi, everyone. Yeah, my name is Emma Jagoz. I'm the first generation farmer and owner at Moon Valley Farm. I started Moon Valley Farm in 2012 with no land, no farming experience, and 2 kids under 2 that I was watching full time as a community supported agriculture farm on bartered land. And over the past 14 years, I have expanded the operation to serve more CSA members, to serve restaurants. And over the past 5 years, we've started serving school systems in Maryland, as well as food as medicine program and produce prescription programs. So yeah, now we're on 70 acres. We have a team of about 30 employees. We go all year round with both our CSA program and all of our sales outlets. Although we do have additional production in the 6 months of June through November, where it's easier to grow. So a big focus of ours is year-round production through greenhouse and high tunnel production, as well as storage crops. And in addition to the crops that we grow on Moon Valley Farm, which are specialty and staple organic vegetables and herbs, we also aggregate from other farmers in the area to diversify and strengthen our offerings. So glad to be here.
Great, thank you, Emma. Next, we'll go with Professor Carolyn Dimitri. You also have some information for us as well. So let us know.
It's very short, but in true professorial fashion, I won't remember what I'm saying without having some words here to talk about it. So I'm an applied economist. I've been doing research on the economic viability of organic farms, like once the food is grown, like how does it get to market and what are the challenges farmers face? And so I just finished a research project where we held focus groups with about 70 organic farmers, and 25 of them were vegetable farmers. And I just wanted to share some of the findings of the research I did with them. And so for the transition process, most farmers said that it's really important to find a mentor to help with learning how to farm organically, and that getting support from farmers, other farmers, even if they are conventional farmers, or even if they're not located in your area, is really important for the, to learn how to operate your farm. And that farmers basically talked a lot about learning by doing. And so one farmer, this is a quote where he said that he made every single mistake you could make on the farm. And it was like actually that experience of making mistakes that has been the most valuable teacher. And then a lot of farmers who are transitioning said that actually if the USDA support for conservation practices can actually be very helpful for getting their operation up and running. And if you're lucky enough to live in an area where your conservation support person is really good and understands organic, you can get a lot of advice on how to get money to help build infrastructure on your farm. And so I want to talk a little bit about organic pricing, because research shows that, everyone knows farming and making a profit on a farm is really hard. And for organic farmers, to be profitable, you have to get a higher price, what we call the organic price premium, for the products that you sell. And like whether you can charge a higher price depends a lot upon where you're located and what market channel you're selling to. So some farmers found that if they were selling directly to consumers, it was a little bit easier than if they were negotiating with a wholesaler who was selling, in Target or a supermarket. And that farmers also kind of struggle with, like, some consumers don't really know what it means to be organic. So farmers who run CSAs or who sell directly to consumers, which is about 75% of organic farmers, really spend a lot of time telling consumers what it means to be organic and why it's important to be organic. But farmers have said it's really hard to talk to people because sometimes people don't know the difference between local and organic food, and they don't know why they should pay more for organic food. And so one farmer said this makes the expense of being certified painful for their operation. Although, anyway, I'm sure that our farmers will have a lot to say about that. And that other farmers said that it's really hard to compete with people who say we're organic, but we don't certify. I think that's a really important topic, and hopefully our farmers will have something to say about that. And then the last things I want to talk about, some key challenges that our farmers talked about. Finding labor to work on your farm is really hard. People can get pretty high wages working in Walmart or Target. And, working on a farm is hard, and sometimes people just don't want to get like as dirty as you need to be on a farm. So this is a struggle for farmers all around the US. And like balancing work and family life is really hard, especially for people who have small children. And so farmers have to make different decisions. And so one producer that we talked to, who is located in the South Central area, said that she and her partner decided to like have a farm that was only the size that the two of them could run. And so that they have a simple life, but they have a good life. And so like working with like the scale of your operation and like who's working off farm and who's working on farm, how to plan for your retirement, how to take care of childcare and healthcare. These are all like everyone faces those problems, but I think they're especially acute for farmers because we have less social support for them. And so as an example, one grower said that they shifted their entire farm operation after they had a baby. And instead of being a very diversified farm, they just focused on a few crops, and they found that they were doing better off. They were better off financially by just focusing on those few crops that they can grow really well. I mean, and obviously if you're a CSA farmer, you probably can't make that decision, but if you're selling directly to consumers, maybe you can. So these are just a few highlights that of the research project that I recently completed, talking to organic farmers about how they try to earn a living from their farm operations. And thanks so much for inviting me.
Thank you, Carolyn. Okay, so we're going to get started with some questions for the panelists. Well, Dr. Dimitri, what have you seen are some common misconceptions when transitioning from conventional to organic?
I think that it is really hard to farm organically. And I feel kind of foolish saying this because there are two farmers here who can speak to this much more than I can. But I think that if you are accustomed to growing food conventionally, you have to learn a whole new way of farming. And I think that can be a real surprise for farmers when they find themselves like in the middle of that process.
Gotcha. Emma, Reggie, what are some misconceptions that you guys have come across when you were first transitioning?
So for me, organic, everybody said it was expensive. And, organic, the application is about $500 annually, and there's a cost share that reimburses you for $325 of it. So in actual dollars, organic is very affordable. I would say $175 annually is not breaking the bank. However, it is expensive in making sure that you are record keeping on the daily basis. So the daily requirements for just making sure that you are writing down everything you do. So when I first became certified organic, and still now, I had to make sure I had 3 years of records documented for every single seed I purchased. I had to save the seed packet, save the date in which I used the seeds, with how many seeds I used, and in what trays and what medium I used them in. So just making sure we had all of those records, creating all of those records. And finding that some of them were a little bit surprising to me, like having records of the loss of some of our storage crops. So say we harvest 10,000 pounds of sweet potatoes, and we only have sales records for 7,000 pounds. You have to show that you had a loss of 3,000 pounds somewhere, and you have to have a record for that. So some of the records were surprising to me, and making sure that my whole team was onboarded with what we had to do and when we had to do it. So it was more of a challenge on the developing the systems and onboarding my team to the systems, and then making sure they followed through on the systems that they were taught on a daily basis. That was the biggest actual burden of organic. And like Dr. Dimitri was saying, if I did not have a mentor farmer who gave me some templates for some of these things, it would have taken me a lot longer and been more challenging.
Yeah, I'd like to echo on what Emma was talking about. I guess one of the misconceptions about becoming certified organic is the record keeping. I mean, it can be daunting. I guess we started as a certified naturally grown, which is like a step below certified organic. You don't have to keep as a detailed records, but we started just keeping records just for the sake of keeping records. And then when we became certified organic, we like tried to detail our record keeping. And I mean, it can be daunting, but I think it helps you get into the habit of keeping records. And once you understand like the ins and outs of just record keeping and have your system, it gets a lot easier after that. And then, I mean, we're still honing in on like trying to get our systems right. But once you get into that habit of record keeping, then it gets easier and easier.
have you all seen, or what are some tools or methods that you guys would recommend for producers that are wanting to do that transition? Any recommendations?
I've seen I've like toured other organic farms like in the area. And then I just wanted to see what their operation is. And I've seen like, for us, it's just notebooks and writing it down. And I see like, it's as simple as that for other farmers as well. Just writing it on notebooks and then whatever system that really like you prefer, um, that makes it easy. And we try to keep it as simple as possible. Um, uh, some people may not have like use like the computer as often. So, but we have a combination of like notebooks and like putting everything in like Google Drive. Yeah.
We keep clipboards with the spreadsheet exactly where the event is happening. So by our inputs for when you have to write down what inputs you used and when, and how much you used and for what purpose, and same with any of our fertigation or sprays or any of that kind of inputs. We have a clipboard with a notebook right there. We are I don't know, maybe we just like redundancy, but we do transfer all of those records onto our Google Sheets. So we do have an online spreadsheet with all of the information and data, which really helps us in the planning phases for the season and to help make us help us use last year's data to make tweaks on our crop timing and selection. But we do have those paper copies in the field exactly where our staff is using them. So yeah, I want to echo that too.
I mean, I think one thing to keep in mind is, like, I don't know, did you work with your certifier to help develop the system? Because I know when you have your annual inspection, like, I think, you know, more non-compliance certificates are given to farmers for like sort of not having the right records rather than actually violating any really standard of like doing something wrong, like putting a pesticide on the crop. So, I mean, I think, I don't know, like, how did you set up your systems to make them so that when you have your inspection, you're, you know, not found like in non-compliance, which I think is probably really unpleasant if you're a farmer.
Yeah, you're totally right on all of that. And that is 100% true with all of the organic farmers I know. The only dings they get are for not having the correct records filled out as opposed to violating organic standards. And so that's where that mentorship came to be invaluable, because she just gave us the spreadsheets that she has used to pass inspection. And so we mimicked those, and we were able to modify the spreadsheets that we were using. We were farming for 6 years before we became certified organic. My operation is extremely complex. We grow dozens of different crops, spanning hundreds of varieties, and with harvest in all 4 seasons. It was really, really complicated. And to compound that, I was a first generation farmer who started leasing on 6 different properties so for the first 8 years, I was farming 6 different properties. So I had to have basically 6 different organic system plans for each of those properties. And in some cases, affidavits on the landowner's previous usage of the crop, of the field. So my farm is extremely complicated. It would be very easy for us to get tripped up in having the wrong record or not having written something correctly. So having that assistance to go on those templates to utilize was really invaluable. And then when I finally purchased land of my own in 2019, and we were to transition into one organic system plan on one spot, I thought, dang, this is easy compared to, having 6 different ones. So, it can be really, really, really complicated, but it ultimately felt worth it for me.
Yeah, we kind of like we standardize our operations. So like we have a field box, and each block has 20 rows, and then each row is labeled. So another big thing about becoming certified organic is traceability, and then figuring out where where you harvest things, and then if there's any issues of like in the soil, or if there's like wildlife in the area, then you have to like cordon it off. So you have to like make note of that. But for us, it's just like standardizing each field block. And then, because all of our rows are 100 feet, and then they're all 30 inches wide. And then we only plant a certain family in each block every year. So we can try to make it easier for a crop rotation. And then when we make a sale, we use Square, the point of sale app, and for every transaction we make, we can trace back where we planted it. So like, yeah, we're able to do it that way, and it makes it easier, and we can keep track of every sale and where it came from. And we have like just standardizing is like important for us to make things easier.
Thank you, Reggie. I know for my farmers market program, we're also using Point of Sale, the Square app. And so it's not just like opening new markets for sellers. It's like, yes, now you can have people that don't have cash in them to pay with card, but also for your own record keeping. As long as it's, it can be simple, but as long as it's consistent, that's what's really important. So thank you. Okay. Have there been any costs associated with y'all record keeping? I know y'all mentioned like spreadsheets and like apps and then like on paper, but have y'all looked into like any like services? Like I know when I reach out to farmers, a lot of them look into like the QuickBooks and like all these things, and I know they can be expensive, but any thoughts on anything like that?
We kind of like, so we use Square, and then we can attach it, or forget the word. Like we use QuickBooks as well. That's probably the one cost that we pay like a yearly fee for, um, just to have like QuickBooks online. Um, and yeah, other than that, it's like we just use what's called Rocketbook. It's like something you can take pictures of the notebook, and then it will like feed it into uh, the Google Drive. So that's the only other cost. It's just like the notebooks and having QuickBook online.
Yeah, so we primarily utilize Google Drive for the record keeping. We do use QuickBooks and a local food marketplace software to manage our sales, but that's only really addressing the sales records for organic certification. We've looked into several different farm management or like farm production management software that would be a database for all of the records. And my farm, I wish I could say that everything was exactly streamlined and 100 feet and 30 inches. We're as close as we can be, but we're dealing with extremely hilly soils, and in order to mitigate or erosion. We just cannot have uniformity across the entire farm. So, the complexity of our crop plans, and frankly, the size of my farm at this point has put us in a kind of an awkward scale between the really small scale farms that seem to do well with some of the small scale farm management software, and the big guys, on 70 acres, we're and over 30 different unique crop types over 52 weeks out of the year. It's just we haven't really found a really great one yet to adopt that has convinced us to ditch our spreadsheets.
Thanks, y'all. So going over into marketing, how has that organic certification impacted your marketing? So like, have you guys seen any like new markets, increased sales, challenges and opportunities with that?
Yeah, so for us, we've always grown primarily for a direct-to-consumer channel with our CSA program, our online farmers market, and to restaurants. And frankly, none of them demand or like really require an organic label in the same way that some wholesale or grocery channels would require. I wanted to be organic for a couple of reasons. One is that I really believe in it. And I believe although the system is arduous and to some degree flawed, the only way to really get a third party label that that consumers understand and trust was to go with organic, and really the best way to modify a system is to get inside of it. And I knew I wanted to scale. So when I became certified organic back in 2018, we were farming about 10 acres. And like I said, we've grown to 70 acres in production now. So it has really helped us to grow our direct-to-consumer channels after we've grown to the point where we don't know every single CSA member we have. It just really lowers the friction, I guess, or it just makes it really easy to explain our practices to a wider audience. And it has opened the door for grocery sales. I know we've all been through COVID and saw the need for a quick pivot in our sales channels. For me, in the COVID year, we were selling directly to restaurants at that time and had to open our CSA early in order to stay in business. And although we still haven't needed to rely on a grocery sales channel, I rest easy at night knowing that I could overnight if some further uncertain times, like perhaps those we're living in, would require my business to pivot channels, really quickly. So I know that I could pursue those grocery or wholesale channels if I need to. We have grown our gross sales by more than 10 times since achieving certification. And our marketing spend, remains really low. It's always less than 2% of our budget. In 2024, it was 0%. It was 0.007, I think, percent of our budget. So it was very, very low. It has really impacted our marketing. But on the other hand, like Dr. Dimitri was saying earlier, many of our competitors in this space are touting their crops as organically grown without gaining certification themselves. And a lot of consumers don't really care. So we have seen a lot of the growth in our business because of the quality of our crops, because of the quality of our customer service, because of the the crop selection that we have, and just because we're running a good business overall. So you can't just get organic and assume that you're going to not only get a bigger piece of the pie, but also keep it without having a quality business to back it up.
Yeah, for us, it's at least one of our better farmers markets requires some sort of certification. So we were originally certified naturally grown, and then now that we're certified organic, I would say we had a tick up in sales just because we did raise some of our prices, like, and then we try to compare our prices with other farms in the farmers market, so we don't try to undercut anyone. And we work to, like, some of our farmers markets we can work together in, like the other farmers markets where there aren't that many farmers, I can just go up to the other farmer and ask, like, what prices are they comfortable, like, so we don't undercut each other. So yeah, I wouldn't necessarily attribute it to like raising our prices, just because, I mean, I wouldn't attribute like some of I don't know if it's actually because we're certified organic or if we're just running a better business year after year. But yeah, I mean, it may help a little bit, but yeah, I think for us, yeah, we wanted to be certified organic as well because we wanted just to convey to the customers that we're treating our vegetables the way like they would want, like clean vegetables. So yeah, that's another main reason why we wanted to become certified organic too.
So Reggie, you'd mentioned that you like had to have some sort of certification from one of the markets. Is that, have you seen that be the norm for people or farmers in your area also transitioning into organic for that reason?
I haven't particularly seen, I think, well, most of the other organic farms in our area mostly do like a CSA or provide to institutions. I think, I feel like farmers markets are like falling out of favor a little bit, but it's been good for us because that's the way we built our farming operation, is just to go to farmers markets mainly. So yeah, I haven't seen many farmers like transitioning to organic just to go to farmers markets.
Gotcha. Okay. So kind of a fun question. What got y'all into organic? Like what made y'all want to do that transition from like y'all's own end? Because you could always just stay conventional. What kind of attracted y'all?
For us, it's just mainly conveying it to the customers, because most people know what certified organic is, and like when you tell people we have organic vegetables, then it's easier to say than like what we were previously like certified naturally grown. Um, so just saying that, yeah, we have organic vegetables because some customers ask, but it's easier to go that way.
I feel like I have a little bit of an unconventional answer. Besides marketing, and like I said earlier, that I truly believe in organic, I really wanted to set a standard for our team to do hard things. I wanted to set a really high bar for our team for a couple of reasons. One is that like Dr. Dimitri said earlier, farming is really, really hard. Organic farming is even harder. And organic vegetable farming and diversified farming is even harder than that, because you're managing so many different crop needs at a time, at so many different times throughout the growing season. And so by setting the bar for my team as we're going to be accountable on not only to ourselves as growers, but to fill out these forms, to fill out all of these records, and we're going to get judged on it on an annual basis by a third-party person who is truly just looking at the facts and the data to see if we've done our jobs. It really helps to say that, you know, we are all doing hard things together. And so yeah, it sets that accountability tone for the team. And when we are faced with other hard challenges like drought combined with you know, poor air quality because of wildfires in Canada or something like that, you know, I'm more confident that my team is going to step up because we've been stepping up every single day. So to me, that's one of the key things. Another requirement on my farm because of our scale is the food safety compliance. The Food Safety Modernization Act requires that we keep arduous amounts of records in order to prioritize food safety and clean water on our farm. And that comes with no economic reward, to be totally honest, besides just the lack of foodborne illness coming from your farm. And so by first setting the bar for organic, when I said, hey team, we've got to meet these requirements as well, they're like, great, we might as well. We're already doing it. We already do hard things. So it kind of set the tone and expectations for my team.
Oh, can I say something here? Because I have talked to so many farmers, and usually people say, you know, I really care about the planet, I care about my community, but I've never heard anyone say that they wanted to farm organically because it was such a big challenge. That's super cool, I think.
I'd just like to add that like becoming certified organic also makes it easier to become what's called GAP certified. So good agricultural practice, or like your wash pack station, to become certified through GAP, which is usually for institutions. So like if you're selling to an institution or distributor, some require like GAP certification. So if you're certified organic, from what I've heard, it's like easier to become GAP certified.
So it seems like there are different markets that you do access through getting certified, but then also as you like find more, it's a whole can of worms from there on. Okay, let's see. Could you all walk us through on how you assess that return on investment, that ROI, from your transition to organic? How have you seen that from your end?
I think you have to keep track of like everything. So like you have to keep track of all your expenses, like soil amendments, seeds, plants, and then since we have our field blocks standardized too, we could say we made this much money off of this 100-foot bed. And then whatever we planted there, we can just, since we keep track of it in square, we can see how much we made out of that crop. and then how many rows we planted. And that's the good thing about like the record keeping portion of becoming organic. Like you have to keep track of all that. So we can track like how much amendments we put into it, how much soil, how many seeds, plants, and the cost of all that. And then we can go back to our sales and see how much we sold, and then we can just make a like an estimation, a pretty close estimation, like that way to see where. And then like if we need to improve, we can just say we want to plant more of something else, or this did well for us, and then we want to plant more of that. So yeah, and then we can extrapolate things. So keeping up with expenses, standardizing our beds, and seeing that the increase in sales makes sense to where like there is an increase in sales.
So for us, besides the crop by crop financial analysis, like Reggie was talking about, I love to talk about the long-term ROI on organic transition because that is the thing that really differentiates organic from organically grown or conventionally grown, right? Because that is inherently saying, okay, are you economically able to continue farming next year or not? Well, organic requires you to have a long-term plan, and that and your inspector will go through whether or not you're failing that plan. They'll look at your soil health results. They will look at the noxious weeds in your fields. They will look for signs of erosion. So they are annually looking through your entire plan and then evaluating on how well you're doing, on how well you're executing on that. They're looking at the biodiversity plan. Okay, did you put bat boxes like you said you would? Do you have these purple martin houses like you said you would? Where is your pollinator habitat? They're asking for these things. And to me, organic production in the long term is hand in hand with developing climate resilience on your farm, because long-term soil health is just going to mitigate the effects of drought and deluge alike much better than if we have an extractive this year alone mindset on our production. So to me, that mandating that long-term lens is one of the major benefits and kind of less talked about benefits of organic transition and organic production. It's just one of those things that it would be really easy to fall off the radar because you're focusing on right now if you aren't evaluated on it.
So speaking on that transition, how and have you found it important to identify your buyers before that transition? Just like your experience on finding, because obviously you're going to transition, but like, who are you going to sell to? So what was that like for y'all, like knowing that aspect of it, like who's going to buy?
For us, we exclusively go to farmers markets, but it gives us the opportunity to like expand our buyers for, yeah. So like if we wanted to like sell to an institution or a restaurant that requires certified organic, yeah, or a distributor, it'll allow us to do that. But it's kind of like, I don't know, it's something that we have to do research on, like to find those buyers who want certified organic. It's not like we become certified organic and they find us, but so it's still our part in trying to find those buyers.
Yeah, like I mentioned before, growing my CSA program, knowing that I was going to scale it was one of the reasons that I really wanted to pursue organic certification so that I could make that relationship of trust around our growing practices, happen faster without the longer conversation and without developing that trust on a one-on-one basis. So we can just having that seal on my website answers a lot of questions for consumers. When I first pursued organic, I think we had about 175 CSA members. Now we have well over 1,000. So when we had 175, I did reasonably know a lot of those members and developed relationships with them in person. At this point, I don't, have a direct relationship with so many of those folks, and they trust us because of the label and because of many other things, but they really do trust that label in terms of getting to know our growing practices. So so that's definitely key. We did target a couple of different producers as well. Like there's a fermentation company in Baltimore called Hex Ferments that requires organic certification for their products. And as we were scaling, another consideration was that we knew we wanted to scale our wholesale accounts. And so we wanted to produce certain crops, in bulk to right size our crop production. And so one of those was that we were really good at growing is cabbage. And so a fermentation company is an obvious buyer for that. So that organic certification allowed us to scale our cabbage production so that we could have that as a storage crop for our CSA members. And we could also sell, many thousands of pounds to this fermentation company as well. So we did have that that customer targeted, and like I said, just really opening the doors for us as well for additional sales channels for our food as medicine partnerships, for example. Those nonprofits that we're collaborating with or the hospitals that we're collaborating with are really interested in organic produce for the health of the people either living with food insecurities or at risk of developing chronic health diseases or both, the intersection of those. So organic is just a healthier alternative, and they're pursuing those as well.
Thanks, y'all. I guess have y'all seen any regional differences? Like I know Reggie, you're down here in the South, and Emma, you're up in the North. And Dr. Dimitri, have y'all seen any differences between regions or any stories that you've seen from that?
Yeah, I'll start. So in my region, we are located in the center of Maryland, like I was saying, and we are selling to DC, the suburbs of it, Northern Virginia, and the cities across Maryland, like Baltimore and Annapolis. And we are largely targeting a well-educated, wealthy consumer base who are comprising the majority of our CSA members. That being said, like I was talking about with our food as medicine programs, we've sought ways to get our food to those who don't otherwise have access to it through partnerships with nonprofits or hospitals, and that's been really helpful as well. But at the end of the day, I would be remiss if I didn't say plainly that the constituents in our region can afford organic and do pursue it over conventional products.
Yeah, can't really speak to other regions, but for the South and Georgia, like we have a lot of support from nonprofit organizations like Georgia Organics, where like they did a promotion of like trying to certify 100 farms within the next decade or something like that. Um, and there's more and more organizations that's supporting local food, but not necessarily like specifically organic. But I mean, there has been an increase in organic farms in our area, and like from organizations like Georgia Organics, they're trying to push more farmers to become um, certified organic. And then, of course, like the top program that helps other farmers transition into the organic certification. So, as a region, there is an increase in organic farms here. I can't say what percentage, but there is an increase.
It's kind of interesting that you've seen an increase in the number of farms in the Southeast, because actually across the entire US, there's been a decline in the number of organic farms and a decrease in the organic acreage. And then, which creates its own set of problems. And then I think that, I know of plenty of farmers who have just given up their certification because if they don't have I don't know, if they can't find enough labor, it's really hard to run the farm. And if you can't, sell your product to people who can pay like a fair price for it, then it's kind of it's a burden for the organic farmer. And even a lot of organic farmers or farmers start to go through the transition, and many of them don't complete the process. And I don't think that's really a bad thing, because if you spend 2 years working on becoming an organic farmer and then you think you're not able to actually make it work for your operation, it kind of makes sense, not to go through with it. So I think you can look at the transition period in a few ways. If you've had a good mentor and you've had access to support, and your farm isn't really in an area where you can make it run, then I guess you just find some other way to do it. Even though I feel like you are both really exceptional farmers. And so I think it's cool that you're a mentor now, Emma. And I don't know, Reggie, are you on board for becoming a mentor? Because I think that makes a really big difference in the success of a new organic farmer.
Yeah, I've been mentoring at least one farm right now.
Great. Dr. Dimitri, is there anything that you would like to share from your research that you think would be helpful to producers as far as like marketing, return on investment?
I think the most important thing is you need to have I think these two farmers have shown us, like, you both have like plans for your operations. You think about how you're going to run it. And so I think if you are willing to put that kind of effort in, it can work for you. I mean, I would love for more farmers to farm organically, and that's just as a consumer. And I guess what my research shows that it really is a struggle. So I think really it's so like location specific, and whether you're lucky enough to, find good buyers that you're willing to work with. So I just want to thank farmers for growing our organic food for us. I'll keep buying it. I know that was a real non-answer, Rochelle, sorry.
That's okay. I know those econ questions can be like kind of hard. Reggie, Emma, is there anything else that you would like to tell producers? Anything that you think would help for those considering transition?
I guess like um, the typical transition period is like 3 years, but we were able to, at least this property, become certified organic like the following year they purchased the land, because as long as you have a affidavit from a previous owner saying that they didn't spray anything or use any synthetic chemicals on the property, and having that verification of the affidavit, then you can automatically become certified organic almost instantly. So that's another, but I can see, like, if you wanted to make that 3-year transition, like slowly, and then you can just work your way up to becoming certified organic, that's another route. I mean, like, I can see why someone would want to just take that 3-year transition period to.
Like Dr. Dimitri said, there is a decline in some organic farm numbers and acres in organic. And at the same time, I want to say that there's an economic trend that's growing in demand for organic products. So there's a real opportunity for growers to transition and capture some of those increased the demands. I also fully and firmly believe that prioritizing long-term soil health initiatives that organic requires is going to be what captures carbon in the soil and what feeds us through climate change, as well as is a solution to climate change. So I would encourage growers to bite the bullet, do the hard things. Farming is not easy. So, I hope that you didn't sign up for agriculture for the easy road. This is a hard road. So just take it, face it head on, become organic and capture some of those sales and, be a solution in this world.
Thanks, y'all. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Dr. Dimitri.
No, nothing. I that was an accident.
I gotcha. Let's see. Let me see if I have any other questions. Like, we sort of talked about like certification and how that impacted your income, but just outright, how did that certification impact your income?
I guess for us, I mean, not necessarily because we're organic, but we always try to make the goal of at least increasing our sales for like 10% is like a standard goal that we try to make every year. So, I mean, we've reached that goal every year since we've become certified organic. So, yeah.
I mentioned earlier, this is, not strictly due to attaining organic certification, but we have grown our gross sales 10 times since becoming organic and are on track to really blow that out of the water again in 2025. In a large part, it's really hard to dissect the reasons that my CSA membership has grown. For example, like I said, it's good customer service and high quality produce, and have been huge factors. And being certified organic has really, really helped people get in the door, and it has helped keep them as well in my customer base of people who really do care about organic.
Dr. Dimitri, is there anything you've seen on how, like, has there been an increase from people that do get organically certified with their income, or what have you seen on your end?
Well, organic farming most often, but not always, is more profitable than conventional farming. And even though the yields can be lower, the costs can be higher. The revenues are much higher because of the organic price premium. So I think if you live in an area where you can get a price premium, you're in a much better position than if you live in an area where you can't.
Great, thank you. Let me see if through our Q&A, how's organic certification impacted your marketing? And then identifying organic buyers before transition. I think if y'all don't have anything else to add, I can hand the mic over to Vivian.
Great, thank you so much for the wonderful conversation. I'm just gonna share my screen again real quick. That there for your information. Yeah, thanks everyone so much for joining us today for the engaging session. As a reminder, if you are considering the transition to organic farming and are interested in diving deeper into the perspectives of buyers in the organic vegetable market space, we have a webinar next week on Wednesday from 2 to 3 p.m. And you can go to the Organic Transition website and go to the events, and you can find the link to sign up there. We'll have buyers from Whole Foods, the Common Market, Food Connects, and Happy Dirt. But I want to thank you all again for joining us today, and a huge thank you to Carolyn, Rochelle, Emma, and Reggie for joining us today, and I hope you all have a great day. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much. It was nice to meet everyone. Bye-bye.